What's up guys, my name is Ace, and since the Season 3 Reloaded update, something is still feeling really off about Black Ops 6. And it seems to be something with matchmaking or connectivity. Something is weird, something is off. The game feels significantly worse after the Season 3 Reloaded update than before, at least for me, and for many other people I've been seeing complaining about this online. So today, I wanted to share some testing that I did with Black Ops 6 versus Modern Warfare 3, and a bunch of anecdotes I've experienced since the launch of Season 3, because this has been bad enough that I feel it is worth another video on this topic. And I realize a lot of my videos lately have been quite negative and critical. I don't really like being that guy that's just constantly negative about things, but it is kind of hard to make my regular, constructive, positive, stat-type videos when the game itself is just performing really poorly. Now, before we get into that, I just wanted to provide an update on yesterday's video where it was talking about a leak from the Ghost of Hope that suggested that for the next Call of Duty game, they are playing around with the idea of locking certain limited time modes for players that have the Battle Pass, and anybody without the Battle Pass can't play in those limited time modes. Charlie Intel got an update on that, I'm assuming from an official source, otherwise he wouldn't be reporting on this, and he is often in direct contact with the developers, so it makes sense that they reached out to him to shut this down. Apparently, that's not happening with COD 2025. Those leaks are not true. Now, whether or not they were false to begin with, or they backtracked after seeing a bunch of backlash, we don't really know. I wouldn't be surprised if they backtracked on that. But I did want to make sure I was giving you guys an update on that. I had my doubts that they would actually follow through with this, and it looks like they're not going to. Back to the topic of today's video. This is something with the matchmaking just feeling off in Black Ops 6. And several days ago, COD Updates did tweet that an issue that impacted matchmaking times for players with console-only crossplay or crossplay off entirely has been resolved, and players should be able to find matches with these settings on faster, but both settings will continue to impact overall matchmaking times as outlined in our Season 3 patch notes. So after seeing this tweet, I thought, okay, they resolved the issues I've been having with long matchmaking time, high pings. But since then, I've logged in and I have played a little bit, and while it definitely improved, I'm no longer seeing like 5+ minute matchmaking times like I was before they tweeted that. My matchmaking experience is still far worse than it was literally the day before the Season 3 Reloaded update hit. Something still seems to be different there, and it's having a big negative impact on the experience. So I was curious with this. I wanted to do some really quick, basic testing here, just to see if this is really all that bad. And I just searched for 5 games of regular quick play team deathmatch with the console-only crossplay setting on. And I wanted to just time how long it takes to matchmake into games on average, as well as the average ping that I would get in those games. And then I wanted to do the same thing with Modern Warfare 3, but since we don't have console-only crossplay in that, I turned crossplay off entirely, so it was only searching for PlayStation players. And that's in last year's game, where presumably the player count is going to be much lower. I know some people will say, no, it's probably higher in Modern Warfare 3. That's never the case. The vast majority of regular casual players are always just playing the current Call of Duty game. But I did find some interesting results with this. When it came to my average time to matchmake, turns out in Black Ops 6, it was about 10 seconds faster on average. And that's something we'd actually be expecting, so it seems like matchmaking times, at least, for me, keeping in mind everybody's in a different region with a different connection, so your results may vary here, but for me, the matchmaking time is a little bit better in Black Ops 6 compared to Modern Warfare 3, and I would hope that's the case with the current COD versus the previous one. However, very interestingly, my average ping values throughout these matches were quite noticeably better in Modern Warfare 3 with full crossplay off, compared to Black Ops 6 with console-only crossplay, where presumably I'd have access to a significantly larger player pool, and therefore, if anything, I should be seeing much lower pings. And you'll notice in Black Ops 6, out of those 5 games, I got multiple games over a 60 ping, whereas in Modern Warfare 3, the highest ping I saw was 44. And I also saw my best ping, around 25, multiple times in Modern Warfare 3, and only once in Black Ops 6. So that's something that's messed up, especially since they continue to state that ping is king. I don't know how that's the case, if I should be clearly playing in a significantly larger player pool, but I'm seeing higher ping values on average with only slightly better matchmaking times. Now obviously, that's not like a super scientific study or anything, it's a pretty small sample size, but just a little trend that I noticed with some basic tests there at least. And I expected the results to be completely opposite of this, at least when it comes to ping. But beyond that, I do want to just share some anecdotes of my experience with Black Ops 6 since the Season 3 Reloaded update. One big thing I've been noticing is lobbies don't seem to be refilling as often or as quickly once players leave matches. I have run into so many dead games where either most of my team or most of the enemy team leaves, and then it's basically just one team chasing the spawn of 2 or 3 players around the map for the rest of the match. And at that point, the match is basically over. There's really not much fun to be had for either side. It's boring when the enemy team leaves and you're just chasing the spawns of 1 or 2 guys. And on the flip side of that, it really sucks when your entire team leaves and it never refills and you find yourself fighting against an entire team. Additionally, connection-wise, like we saw, my ping is very inconsistent in Black Ops 6, but on top of that, even when I was getting the better ping matches, I was noticing a lot of desync and a lot of situations where I felt like the ping was way, way worse than it was. Lots of shoot first, die first situations, just like I was experiencing early on in the life cycle of Black Ops 6. That had generally stabilized for me, but as soon as this Season 3 Reloaded update hit, it's like all of that progress just got thrown out the window, and desync is just as bad as it was early on. So that has me wondering if there's a lot of high ping players in my lobbies when I have a low ping, and that's causing some big discrepancies and issues there that I wasn't experiencing nearly as often before this update. And then the last anecdote that I wanted to point out here, which is kind of hard to tell due to the desync, but in my experience, it seems the player's skill level overall is noticeably higher than before Season 3 Reloaded. And I want to point out when it comes to this part, this is a common trend we tend to experience after major updates. And I've always said this is almost definitely due to the fact that there's just more players in matchmaking, since a lot of people that have fallen off will return when a major update hits to check out the new content, level up the new guns, play on the new maps. And when you have more people in matchmaking, this means the matchmaker is able to work harder and it has a higher chance of finding similarly skilled players to match you with at any given time. So it's not like I'm overly surprised that the skill level of enemies suddenly seem to shoot up with the update. The problem here though is matchmaking times shouldn't also be going up, which at least early on with the update they were much worse. And we should also be seeing better ping values on average than before the update when there were fewer people playing, because there's more potential people to matchmake with, and therefore there should be better odds of you running into players that you have a better ping to. Before the update versus after the update with the same crossplay settings, keeping in mind I'm talking about console-only crossplay, it seems like they definitely flipped some kind of a switch here. Something is different and much worse while using this setting. And I've got a few guesses as to what could be happening here. The first guess is something is either bugged, or maybe they even made an intentional change to make the console-only option less enticing, therefore encouraging people to turn crossplay back on. Maybe they were noticing some negative effects from that. I think that's maybe a little bit of a tinfoil hat theory that they did that intentionally, but it's definitely possible. Another potential option, instead of that, or maybe even on top of that, is maybe they actually did crank up the strength of SBMM. So it's not just higher player pool means higher skilled players that you can match with, but they might have actually tightened things up and made it a lot more restrictive with the skill level of players that you're able to matchmake with. Which if they did that, that could explain an increase to matchmaking times compared to before the update, as well as potentially higher ping values if that skill rating is taking priority over ping. Either way, I just wanted to get this off my chest because it's not just me that's experiencing this as well. It is a very widespread complaint in the community from what I've seen, primarily from console players using the crossplay options. And I realize you could just turn crossplay back on fully, but the problem with that is we weren't dealing with these issues, at least not nearly to the same extent, before the update hit, and something is suddenly different. And that shouldn't be the case. The game shouldn't feel worse as we get updates. If anything, it should be feeling better with every update that comes out. And this is where I want to hear from you guys in those comments down below. What has your experience been like with Black Ops 6 multiplayer since the Season 3 Reloaded update? And I especially want to hear from those of you guys that play on console using one of the crossplay options like console only or just turning it off entirely. Have you guys been noticing similar things here where the ping values have been getting worse, matchmaking times have gone up, and just the general experience has gotten worse? Or maybe not. Maybe you have some anecdotes to counter my anecdotes, and maybe things are working just fine from you. I do want to hear from those people as well if they're out there. Just let me know down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.